You're listening to the Woman of Value podcast. You are about to hear the story of a woman who is following her dreams and passions and creating positive change in the world.
In the last chapter, which is just a few words, is do you want to live life with one purpose? Or do you simply want to live life purposefully? Yeah. And so it's a different approach. Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Kass Thomas is a successful business entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, and an empowerment business coach. The depth of her career experiences inspires people to explore more choices and find the changes they're looking for. It is her mission in life to strengthen the unity of choice and change. She's a best-selling author, and she is debuting her book, Dancing with Riches, a self-empowerment manual to encourage readers to change tracks if the journey they're on is not working for them. This book has been published before. It's being republished in English now. And within the pages of this book, readers will find a guide to transform negative into positive and to come through a winner, even in the most limiting situations. Welcome to the show, Kass.
Hello, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
It's so fun to talk to you. We've just been having the greatest conversation before we started, so I'm looking forward to this interview. And you're in Rome, so just to let people know that Kass is 6 hours away from me, 6 hours in time zones. So this is nighttime for her and daytime for me. What does a woman of value mean to you, Kass?
It means acknowledging that you are a woman, because all women are of value. Without women, we wouldn't have a continuity of presence on this planet. So if we're talking about the world, all women, the mere existence of women is a value. Yeah. And it's important that we acknowledge that. It's not that men are not of value, that women, we're such multitaskers. We're so, multi-talented, and there's such a grace and an elegance in women, even if they're truck drivers. You know what I mean? What is women of value to you?
So you're asking me to answer the question I asked you. Okay, I can handle that. I always tell clients, if you're going to ask a question, you better be prepared to answer it. So.
Nice. Yeah.
A woman of value to me is somebody who has really acknowledged her own value. I think we do have inherent value, but we don't always see it. And one of the reasons I got into women's empowerment work was because I saw so many women diminishing their value and playing small. And I did it myself most of my life. I underserved, I underperformed. I was afraid to really explore the full extent of my value or my talent, because what if I failed? And what if I was judged? And so I didn't speak in public. I didn't even speak in class for many years because I was afraid that I'd be judged. And when we can get rid of all of those limiting thoughts and beliefs, we have incredible power, and we can make such an impact on other people. And so it's a gift to give to people the value that we have, and it's actually a disservice to keep it to ourselves. That's how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny because in that new book, Dancing with Riches, I mentioned how my cousin had said to me, Kass, if people don't agree with you, you actually present it in different ways, because you figure they just didn't understand you. You know what I mean? So that that diminishment, that judgment, for some reason, I never thought that was the case. I just thought that, oh, they didn't get me. Let me explain it in a different way. Let me. So it was very interesting when he actually said that to me. It was like, wow. So if I had taken into consideration that they were actually, trying to diminish me or judging me, maybe I would not have, continued my journey in life in the way I have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think that we often don't have the tools to communicate things in a different way. I know for me, I tried that for a lot of my years, tried to explain to people my position, but it often came across as defensive. And then people would shut down. And it would make me so upset because I was just trying to be seen and heard. And so discovering communication skills and learning how to center myself and really get curious about somebody else was a big key. Learning how to set boundaries, learning what my values were. All of those things are so crucial to owning your own words and your thoughts and not letting somebody else determine your worth.
And absolutely. It's so funny because I feel like I felt like I had spent the first years of my life, right? The first, 25, 30 years of my life, really trying to help other people, really trying to adjust and help other people and really almost bombarding them to try and get them happy, because when I see people, I don't see who they're being. I see who they truly are, you know? So even if you're sad, if you're cranky, if you're whatever, I'm like, I used to be very bombarding them, and I have different tools now because it doesn't have to be that exhausting. But the reality is that if we're willing to really shine our magic, acknowledge our magic and let it shine out, then that light will actually shine on others. And if they see you, I always say, if someone says, oh, you're fabulous, oh, you're this, you're that, I'm like, if you can see it, that means you can be it. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it. So when I said, okay, I'm going to start dedicating my life to me, everybody started saying to me, oh, you're so generous. And I'm like, what? I'm working on me. I'm dedicating my life to me now. I spent all those years dedicating my life to others, and they didn't even get that. So really, you know what I mean? So really, so really, if we're just like you said, if we're willing to acknowledge our greatness, right, our magic, our brilliance, our shine, our value, right, then that's actually a contribution to others because they say, wow, she's different and she's fine with being different. So maybe I can be fine with being different too. And
Yeah.
we just may not even look at it that way, but it's true. That's the way it is.
I totally am with you. And I think, it made me think about when you said people thought you were so generous when you were taking care of yourself. It's often the case when you listen well that somebody thinks you had a great conversation with them, where you barely spoke because you allowed them to speak and you allowed them to be heard and seen. And that's what we all want. And so when we take care of ourselves, it's honoring ourselves and it's giving people permission to do the same. I think as a parent, I was not brought up with that model at all. And it's like you're supposed to martyr yourself and give everything to your children and be a total dish rag. And that is a terrible model for your children. It's a terrible model for anyone around you. Like, what are we really saying? That we're not worthy? And then you should be, though. Like, how?
Absolutely. And in what is the example you're being?
Yeah.
With that, because if you're that way with your children, when then they have families, is that, and if we think we have to be that, is it functioning from this position of superiority? You know what I mean? That we know what would be best for someone else. So what would be best for someone else is if we reduce ourselves? No, because it's their choice. You know, you can
Yeah.
give people, recognize people, compliment people. How many times have people complimented you, told you about your amazing communication skills? And it's not until you acknowledged it, right, that you started then working with it. And when you said that just that silence thing, uh, communication, a lot of times, we're both, considered experts in communication, right? So when a lot of times, and just a question for you too, how many times do people think that communication is about what you are transmitting to somebody? But communication is not a one-way street, it's minimum a two-way street, and it can be a roundabout. What do we call that in the States? They call it rotary.
A
Rotary.
traffic rotary, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah. But that being willing to listen to someone and to hear what they're saying from their perspective too, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I tell people a lot of times. What we hear and what we consider as judgment may simply be the way people communicate.
Mhm.
No, I remember once my husband was like, "No, you should do this with your business. You got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." And he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's the matter?" And I was like, "I'm not going to do it." He said, "You've got a successful business. You're the one that chooses. This is just the way I'm giving my input." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So how much do we, interpret as judgment and criticism, which is actually just the way somebody communicates?
Yeah. And right. It's so true. I mean, I'm in the process of rebuilding this quiz that I created about communication archetypes for my other website. And I've identified 4 communication archetypes to represent the aggressive and passive aggressive, the assertive and the passive, and I call them: the puppy is the passive, the koala is the passive aggressive, the scorpion is the aggressor, and the lioness is the assertive. And no matter what your style comes out to be, you're still communicating with other people. And so there's a series of emails that are being put up in this campaign now where it's like, okay, great, you're an assertive person, but you're working with people who are aggressive. You're working with people who are passive aggressive. How do you deal with those people? Like you said, it's not just us. And we can have family members or children or, just friends. How do we deal with people who have different styles, who are not us, because nobody is us?
Exactly. That's what I always say. Nobody does you better than you. So then don't
Right?
try to be like someone else because their job's already taken. They're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just talking about this on my 7 Steps Explosion workshop today, that there's some window or doorway, or sometimes just a crack where people are sensitive. And if you're willing to approach them from that angle, but seeing things from their perspective and approach them from that angle, you will find, let's say, the softness in them. Because for me, with these 7 steps I was talking to you about, the third step is like lowering your barriers. And people who have up barriers, when you lower them, actually their barriers come down as well when you lower yours. And people who have up barriers and are aggressive, right? When you are willing to actually see them from a different perspective, they're sometimes the most sensitive people ever, because something, really good reasons and justifications for putting up those barriers, for not being hurt. How many people have had their hearts broken, and put up those barriers around their heart? So if you're willing, really to see things from their perspective and to approach them in a way that they're willing to receive you, your communication with them can be nothing but flawless. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
true. And I'm noticing how you got very soft when you spoke about this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so, I'm so delighted because it's the invitation that we are too. And I have to tell you about Sandy, the name. I didn't mention that to you
Uh-oh.
yet. You might be a sister from another mister. Yeah, just they it's so lovely when people actually connect with their uniqueness, you know, and that they're no longer feeling a lack of self-esteem or self-confidence. When they really get that nobody does them better than they do themselves. Nobody
Mhm.
can do you better than you. And so if somebody's not receiving you and doing what is judgment, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Not I'm sorry for the way I am. I'm sorry that it doesn't work for you. So what if your goal, your target is to have a flow of communication with them, So just tell me, what is it? What is the way that it would work for you?
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't even know because they're so used to, going into conflict. I have a friend of mine, she took one of these classes, and she was so uncomfortable relating to people with their barriers down
Yeah.
because she organizes music festivals and drummers, and stuff like that. And so she's used to working for them, and they're very pushy and they want this. And so talking to people, like you said, with this softness was like, she felt like she had fleas. She started like itching. She was like, I'm not comfortable because I know how to deal with aggressive people, but how do I deal with kind people?
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely see that. And I've seen the opposite also. I have a client who I've been working with for many years. She's an interior designer, and she had a business for 20 years that was successful, but it was filled with people who were difficult because they just fell in her net, and she didn't have any way to be discerning, to really identify who she works best with, how she works, how she wants to work. So I helped her get a lot of clarity in her work, but I also really helped her with her communication because she was such a people pleaser that she did not stand up to people who were abusive. And there were people who were so harsh. And some of them, now that she knows how to communicate better, some of them have apologized, some of them have changed their ways, but there have been a few who were like marking up her contract and saying, no, your contract is wrong. And she's like, no, that doesn't work for me.
Exactly. And that is it's such a great way that with access consciousness that I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Mhm.
I'm just saying that it doesn't work for me. So if
Yeah.
you would like to find something that works for me, then we can discuss it. If you would not like to, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And so then the choice is theirs, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really
Right.
a different approach. Yeah.
Because you're not calling somebody a name. You're not telling them they're bad or wrong. And that's where most people trip up. I think it's like I have a friend who's in a relationship, and the guy, she was traveling, and then he met her where she was. So they were both on foreign ground and both uncomfortable. And he had just gotten off the plane, was exhausted, and she was trying to make him happy and accommodate him. And he got really triggered. And he said, You're too accommodating. And it was like you're a this kind of thing, and no gratitude for anything she was doing. It was just like something in him got really triggered. Well, after many conversations, and he thought they talked about it once, we were done. Like, we're done. It came out that this felt like she was trying to control the situation, and it triggered something in him. And then it's like we're learning about each other. We're learning about, like, why did you get triggered? Why did I get triggered? Why did it take me 3 conversations to really feel seen and heard? And it's that openness to have those conversations that matters.
Absolutely. And going into reaction, right, is a bit of a defensive posture, and
Very.
sometimes you can say, hold it, time out. Can we start again?
Yeah.
Can you go back outside the door and come back in? We can start again.
Yeah. Having a do-over.
Yeah. And how does that work? So
Yeah.
my name was Kass Sandra Thomas. When I was born, that was my original name on my birth certificate.
Interesting.
The Sandra is cool.
So I was Sandra, Saundra. Are you San? Were you San?
I was
Sandra?
Sandra.
ER. Oh.
Yeah. No, RA. You're right, Sandra. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. My
Got
first
rid of that part.
It's in my first marriage when I was 24. I said, okay, I'll keep Thomas, Kass Thomas, and then I was Kass Thomas Freelon for about 10 or 12 years. And then when I got divorced and I was going to get married again, I said, I don't want to get married with my ex-husband's last name. So I had to really work hard to get my name back. And I was like, okay, just make it simple. Kass Thomas. That's it. And believe it or not, in Italy, when you get married, your name, you don't change your name.
Oh,
You're always, you might go by, your husband's name. And he might also take yours, go by yours sometime. But your name is always your maiden name. So
that's
I want,
so interesting.
yeah, to be Kass
It's almost
Thomas.
like doing business as.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
interesting. Let's talk about the communication steps because I'm really curious about that, and then we can talk a little bit about your pivotal moments in life and get a little into the book that's being published right now.
Sure.
So, can you share the 7 steps? Because I would love to hear about them.
Absolutely. It's a really small book, like I told you, really simple, but not stupid. And and they're so short. Each step is like 1.5 pages, and then there's some exercises and stuff in it. But the first phase is about connecting with you. You know what I mean? Connecting. And so step one is show me the magic. And it's about you. It's so easy. I can tell you all the fabulous things about you, and we're just on now, right? But for to be able to acknowledge and recognize what is different, unique about you is not that easy for people.
Mhm.
Other people can see it in you quite easily, you know, but for us to actually notice what's unique and what's different about us. In business, we say your unique selling point, right? Um, and so that's what it is. And the moment you begin to look at that, there's something where your heart starts beating in a different way, or you're able to feel that heartbeat in a different way. You feel this movement inside of you, it might be at your third chakra, your solar plexus, it might be in your heart. There's this warmth that comes over you, and there is a potency, that is vulnerable, and you're not, there's nobody that can deny you what you know about yourself. And a lot of times, when we get that connection with ourselves, step two is talk to your body, not at your body, but to your body, and allow your body to let you know what works for you, you know, what's not working for you, when you are connected with you and when you're not. So that you can, in any, like you were talking about your friends or your clients, when you're going outside of yourself to accommodate someone doesn't mean you cannot accommodate them if you stay present with yourself. So that is the basis of communication, because it all starts with you. And a lot of times people think that that's egotistical, or it's just concentrating on you. But it's such a gift for people when you're present. How often do you meet with people in there? If you could put a statue there, go out for a walk, come back, and then still be talking.
My father used to do that. He would call and just vomit out his life and complain a lot. And I wouldn't listen. My sister, who was much less boundaried at the time, she would put the phone down, do her work. And I'd say, if that's working for you, great. But what are you teaching him? That it's okay for him to dump stuff on you and then walk away? Like, I don't know, like that just wouldn't work for me. So, yeah, it's not
Wait,
being present at all. It's not tuned in.
yeah. And, when we are present, that show me the magic. It's an invitation for people to see what's different about them. And when you connect to you, when you begin really connecting with yourself, you begin shining this sort of, it's different. When you said, oh, your voice got softer then, when I was talking, and it connects to something in you. And so it's an invitation for you to invite others to say, wow, I'm feeling different at the moment. So the first step is show me the magic. And the second step is talk to your body, listen to your body, don't be judgmental towards your body. Because we're here. I mean, we could be angels and light beings and all, on Mars, but we're here, and we've got bodies. And so a lot of times we really 80% minimum of what shows up in your body starts with your mind. So if you are able to connect with your body and be present with your body, then the way that you communicate with people is beyond words. It's, energy is the first language, and then you've got the movement and the image and the vibration that you're being, and so and the space that you're being and the presence that you're being. So talking with your body allows you to see what's in line with your vibration. And like you were saying, with clients, maybe they want to change careers, maybe they want to change relationships, maybe they want to, change something in their life. But what choices do you make? You make the choices that actually will give you that joy of living, right? That you'd like to have in your future. So connecting with you is really the beginning of any communication. And then once you've connected with you, the second phase is about disconnecting from who you are pretending to be or who you thought you were. Somebody with walls and barriers up that is keeping everyone out. The problem with that is that not only are you keeping other people out, but you're keeping yourself locked in. So a lot of times we think, oh, I don't know why they don't like me. I don't know why they're not receiving me. I don't know why they're not communicating with me. Are you sure they're not communicating with you, or are they not communicating with those walls and barriers that you put up? So step three in that disconnect phase is about lowering your barriers. And we play a lot with that, lowering your barriers. And step four is going beyond the veil, it's called. And it's so interesting because sometimes we wear masks, which are like, hi, my name is Kass, and I'm born in Boston. Yes, and I lived in New York for years, and then once in Paris, and now I live in Rome. I'm a writer. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you, Sandy. Thank you so much. That's fine. It's warm, but once you've connected with you, you're actually willing to go beyond that veil. And a veil is a little bit different because it's sort of like semi-present. It's a bit vague sometimes. And so recognizing a lot of times that, maybe there's something missing in my life. And you might even recognize that that something is you. But if you've been being the perfect mom or the perfect wife or the perfect child or the perfect, then you might not even know how to get to you, who you really are. So once you've connected with you, going beyond the veil allows you to be seen in a different way and to see you in a different way and also to see the world in a different way without the rose colored glasses. And still, once you've done that step one and step two, you're willing to see the beauty in everything, and in everyone. And that doesn't mean you don't see what doesn't work for you, but you're able to see there must be something magical about them too, because everyone's different. What's unique? I always say to people, if you meet the most boring person in the world, can you imagine how talented they must be? With everything that's going on in life, everything that's going on around you, everything that's going on in your body, all those molecules inside the cells in the body, how could you possibly be boring? You got to have talent. You've got to have talent. So yeah. And then step 6 and 7 are part of that reconnect phase. So once you've connected with you and disconnected from who you are not, you reconnect with people in a very different way. So step 5 is about engaging um, other people's universe, seeing things like I was saying earlier from other people's perspective and seeing what is the way that you could approach the conversation that actually works for them and allows you to reach your goal in the communication with them, you know? So they might like tennis, they might like, football, they might, and you don't have to say, oh, I love tennis too. I know nothing about tennis. You might say that, although I do. I like tennis. Anyway, but and when you're willing to do that, to approach the conversation, engage with all the elements in the whole world and universe, then that person feels comfortable, more comfortable with you, and you can see in your body let you know when they get more comfortable and when they've actually opened up some communication with you. So anyway, the book is an introduction to this, and I do workshops on it. And step 6 is about expanding your zone. A lot of times we're so focused on just what we want to talk, where I want to talk to Sandy and I want to talk to Sandy about this. And I never discover that, hey, we were living in New York at the same time. Maybe we even were at the same cafe. How do we know?
Maybe.
Right, on the Upper West Side. I was living on the West Side too. I was quite often at Lincoln Center. So being willing to expand your zone and access information about your past, about your present, and also about your future, and also explore different means of communication with people. And also it's also about communicating with hairy and invisible friends, animals. They're so amazing. You were talking about your program, your the scorpion and right and the lioness. And when you talked about the lioness, I was thinking about going on this. In the United States we call it safari ride. In South Africa they call it bush ride.
Ah.
But I've been several times to South Africa, and I've been on maybe 10 bush rides. And animals, Sandy, it is so amazing to watch them, because it is actually the way we live our lives. It's just that they do it with such simplicity. And the really the buffaloes, and how they just want to show you that they're the bosses. So you're in the truck and you just have to sit still and you have to honor them, and they're like, okay, fine, I don't have to push over your car. And the lions, do you know this? The lions, if the lioness has an affair with another lion outside of their range, not only do they and gets pregnant, not only do they kill the other lion and all the kids, and that not the lioness though, and they just stand there, and they're like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. It's so funny. And when they have children, when they have baby lions, the lion is in the field on his back. He's done all of his eating and everything, and he's got his legs up in the air, and the lioness is taking care of the little babies and feeding them and getting them food. It's just so funny to watch. And the bird, anyway. So expanding your zone is about really acknowledging and recognizing the various ways in which you can approach communication with people and that reconnecting. And step 7 is it's in its own phase 4, establishing true connection. And I call it connecting with the earth. So it's step 1, show me the magic. Step 2, talk to your body. Step 3, lower your barriers. Step 4, go beyond the veil. Step 5, engage with the universe. Step 6 is expand your zone, and step 7 is connect with the earth. And what is that about? Well, if you recognize that you're home here, right, on planet Earth, this is your home. Doesn't matter what country you live in, doesn't matter what city you live in. This planet is your home. And if you feel at home here, you never feel out of place anywhere you go. And no one feels out of place with you, because you are at home and so are they. So and there's lots of different ways, we can go on and on about it, but it's an approach to communication that is so simple and so basic at ground zero, home, that it allows you to engage with people from around the world. And I've pre-COVID travel around the world a couple of times a year, so many different countries, and I feel at home everywhere. Yeah.
This is such a beautiful system. I can relate to so much of it. I think that the one that I was just thinking about was step 6, because we often approach anything with one idea, like, this is how it has to look. I see this a lot in the dating and relationship world. It's got to look this way. it's got to be this way. It's got to be a fairy tale. It's got to be my type. It's got to be this. And a lot of times you're missing what's in front of you because you're not open to what's right here. And it not only, first of all, connects you with people in a much deeper way, but it also makes you enjoy the process so much more because people go in and they're like, oh my God, and I used to be that way. Like when I dated in my 20s, if the guy turned out not to be my next long-term partner, boyfriend, future husband, it was a freaking waste of time. And what were people thinking, that they fixed me up with this jerk, instead of looking at it as an opportunity to get to know a new person and to learn about myself too. I mean, it's just so much that's possible when you open to those possibilities. And so just expanding into that, that's my takeaway for that one.
Absolutely. And that there's no coincidences. So maybe that person you're dating is actually going to introduce you to your next long-term relationship.
Yeah. I mean, it's happened so many times. I had a friend who was part of a meetup group for hiking, and she met a woman who invited her for Thanksgiving, who sat her next to her future husband. Now, she didn't meet that guy at that meetup group. And so a lot of people go into meetups and they say, oh, I just meet women and I'm looking for a man. So it doesn't work. I'm just not going to do it ever again, And so when you shut yourself off from the possibilities, you're shutting yourself off from the joy of life. I mean, really.
Absolutely. I've actually, 3 couples that married that I introduced, and it not for them to get married, just saying, I am going to introduce you to my friend of mine. You guys have and or at a dinner or at a party, and they, have got married, and or engage, and other people engaged in work,
Mm-hmm.
And these days, there's a friend of mine here, an American guy, and he's actually planning on moving. And I'm like, before you move, let me introduce you to a couple of gals.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also tuning in and having your intuitions at work, and the energy of a person is at work, and so I think that's a beautiful thing. And
Um,
in the Jewish religion, they say if you've made 3 matches, you have a place in the Garden of Eden.
That's so funny. When I was in Israel, I thought, oh, I think I'm going to absolutely, discover something. And what I thought I was going to discover, the Messiah. I did an interview there, this 24-hour thing, interview there. And I was like, it showed up in a very different way than I was expecting. I just got so much clarity on business here. And I never thought that that's what was going to happen. I went to Jerusalem and I was like, and it was amazing. And anyway, you think you're going to go to Jerusalem, that there's the church where Jesus is. You have no idea. You have no idea that you at noon, you're going to not only hear the church bells, you're going to hear the Muslims, and you're going to also hear the synagogues and the temples. And it's like they never tell us that,
Mm-hmm.
how much of the 360 degrees is going on around the world. But because we are only willing to receive it from, one direction, we're not actually aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry you're so busy because you're so amazing with communication. I'd love you to be a 7-steps teacher. I've got a program for teachers too. But yeah, I know you're very busy.
Well,
But
we'll talk. So let's get into the woman of value aha moment. Tell us, I know you started to talk a little bit before we recorded about some pivotal moments, and so I'm sure you have many, but if you can share one really pivotal moment of your life where you went, this is life-changing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm in Rome now, and one of the moments that for me was pivotal was it was a 6-month period in my life where my life completely changed. I had been working for almost 10 years in hospitality management, five-star hotels, and I lost my job. Never happened to me before. You know, it was I won't say a mistake on their part. I'm really grateful for it, but it did have, you know, it was a contribution to me because I did, you know, win a lawsuit with them. I was never someone to do a lawsuit. It was something very different for me. I was also immediately, um, they wanted to hire me in different hotels because I had just won, you know, concierge of the year from Wear magazine. And so they were like, "Oh, come and work here in even higher level hotels." And you know, Sandy, it was a moment where I was going to get into the cab and go, you know, for this, what, you know, sort of pro form interview. And I couldn't get in the cab.
Mm.
I couldn't get in the cab for some reason. My body was shaking, you know, and I called them and I said, "I'm so sorry. I don't know what's showing up, um, but I don't think that I can accept this job at the moment. And you know, thank you so much, but I just can't go." And it was 6 years, 6 months actually, that transformed my life. I think that was in August, um, and in January, or maybe it was in September. In January, one of my dearest friends died of AIDS,
Mm.
and just, you know, it was a time where my husband at the time uh, really demanded I go on vacation with him, and I really wanted to stay in New York and be with my friend. And my friend died while I was away, and I went on unemployment, which, you know, middle class. I had never been on unemployment. It was not something I did, and I started traveling. You know, with a jazz artist, and my sister-in-law at the time, six-time Grammy nominee Nina Freelon. She just came out with a new album,
Mm.
uh, and she said, "Look, I can't pay you, but I can pay for your travel, and I can pay for your, you know, stay and your." And I started traveling all around the U.S. and then all around Europe with her because I was speaking French and Spanish and understood Italian, so I was her tour manager. And I reconnected with me. You know, I hadn't been in Europe in 10 years. Hadn't I lived in Paris for a year in my junior year abroad. I had been in Rome quite a bit. And when I got to Rome, all roads lead to Rome. Come to Rome, guys. Will stand at the Colosseum. You will connect. And she was waiting for me to come down and help her with an interview with the language, and I couldn't get out of the tub. I was crying in the tub, and I had no idea why. And I realized that there was a transformation happening. And I said, "I think that I'm not happy in my marriage." And I went home, and it was on March 17th, you know, the Irish up at St. Pat's Day. And I'm from Boston, so it was like we had the day off on March 17th. And I remember sitting on you know, on a bench in New York, and I said, "I gotta change my life." And I moved in. My friend who had passed away, there's no coincidences. He had a brownstone in Gramercy Park that I had been taking care of for him while he was in the hospital, hoping that he would come out. And so I had a place to go. Had no job, but I did have a place to go because that was a place I was taking care of. And it really, you know, even if you think you're making the wrong choice, even if, you know, everyone says to you, "What are you, crazy? You know, you're going to get that high pay job, and you're going to continue in a career which you're having success in, and you have a good marriage, and what are you doing?" You know, and your body's telling you no. And you have to follow your knowing, because what is it that is the future that you may not be willing to acknowledge? But if you follow your instinct, your intuition, your knowing, your gut feeling, right, then how much can you create? And so 6 months later, this guy I had met when I came to Rome when I was studying called me up. And I was like, oh, I had been married at 22. I was together with my husband, monogamous relationship. But you can imagine in 6 months how many people I had given my number to, right? I was like, who is this guy? What is this? And then and I was like, oh my gosh, is this, Marco Corbelli? That's my character. He said, yes, it is. And of course, he had somebody, I had someone. So we just did this dance, He came, and he's an architect. I took him around New York, at Guggenheim and everything. And we started this solo dance for about a year. And finally I moved to Rome. And it's just opened up amazing things to me. And my friend Orlando, who passed away, I was studying French. He was like, oh, why are you so into French? Italian. You have to like Italian. You have to get Italian. And so, and I love food, Sandy. I love food. I really do. I love eating. I love flavors. I don't want to eat a sandwich while on the run. I love food. And Italy is like, magic with food. Yeah. So, and I have several businesses. I started producing films. It just really completely changed my life. Yeah. So is that a good example?
I'll say.
Okay, good.
I mean, it sounds like this cracked you open. Like so many people will relate to your story, even though their story is so different, because so many of us live in a place of like deadness, and where we're not really feeling like we can be us. And I mean, I can relate to your story. I was in a marriage that wasn't really gratifying in so many ways. I could not be me. I could on some levels, but I couldn't really be me. And when I got divorced and I finally had that pivotal moment for myself, I tapped into my higher power. I couldn't do that when I was married, and he couldn't be who he was when we were married. He's happier, I'm happier. And my
Yeah.
kids, the funniest part is they don't really remember me from before the divorce. And they were not young. They were like 13, 16, and 19. But it's like I'm such a different person that I almost disappeared before. And stepping into like, who are you? What are you meant to be in this world? And lots of people are always going to tell you you're crazy. I mean, I was told so many times, just get a job at Starbucks and stop trying to make a career out of this. It's too hard, just get a steady job where you have health benefits, just do something safe. But I'm not a safe person. I take emotional risks all the time. And I think that's important. And and then tapping into other people who do the same thing, right? We can then have that ripple effect, because you leaving opened other doors. And I think that often people stay in this little bubble because of the fear of what might be. So many people said to me while I was divorcing, I don't know if you had this experience, but don't leave. I'm not happy either, but we have very separate parallel lives and it works for us. And I'm like, that's great. I'm not you. Did you notice?
Exactly. Good for you. Yeah. When I came back from my, crying in the bathroom in Rome, and we had an hour and a half conversation when listing all the things that were not working in the marriage. And we totally agreed. He totally agreed with me. I totally agreed. And I said, okay, so I have to leave. What? What do you mean, what? I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean you're going to go? I mean, people don't have exactly what, they said to you. People don't have it. And I said, yeah, but okay, we can try it, channelers, therapists, whatever. And, they said to me, the dance is always yours. The music may change, the partner may change, but the dance is yours, you know? So it's up to you to choose the partner, but the dance is yours. And I said, well, you know what? I'm ready to choose another partner.
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean? And I had said, I will never get divorced. As my parents had both divorced and got together to have me. So I was like, I'm never going to do that. That's not what I'm going to do. And so you wake up in the morning, and my mom had said to me, who was amazing, she was amazing. She said to me, I don't think that's a good idea for you to travel and be somebody's tour guide, on a travel. I said, you don't? I think it's great. I'm gonna do it. And I remember a conversation I was having with after that with my mom and my sister, and they were like, "Well, you're very cranky." I'm like, "Guys, my life has changed." Okay, it was like right after that. I was like, "Hello, I've lost my job. My best friend died. I just left my husband. It's a moment of change." Okay,
Yeah.
so all that,
Crank is
like,
okay.
it's okay to be a little bit cranky. Okay,
Yeah. Permission to be cranky.
permission granted. And yeah. And really, lots of Americans and feeling at home no matter where you go is when you're willing to trust you know, to honor you, not treat you with disrespect and disregard.
Yeah.
Trust you that, maybe you'll trip sometimes. That's trusting you, not saying, oh, I'm never going to trip again. I'm never going to trip again. This is what I want. I'm not gonna... No, sometimes I'm going to trip. Okay. But it's not how many times you trip, it's how many times you're willing to get up and
Yeah.
keep moving. Yeah.
Right. And how quickly you get up too, because it gets a little quicker each time if you're really working on it's okay to fall. It's going to be faster this time because I get it. I get what's going on.
Absolutely.
And, this kind of reminds me of the beginning of our conversation where we were talking about communication styles and how we have to see things through other people's lenses because we see it through our own. So when somebody like your mom and your sister say to you, you shouldn't be doing this, it's because they're not feeling safe. You do it. Like there's something in them that gets ignited when you do something that has nothing to do with them. It has to do with you.
Yeah. And so often people are actually, like we were saying before, they're actually just telling you and advising you in a way that they were advised.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I write about that in my Dancing with Riches book, because my mom, her first marriage, she had my sister with her first marriage. She was accommodating, her mother's idea of an ideal partner, you know, but it wasn't for her. And sooner or later, she left that and chose someone who was not the ideal idea for my grandmother. My grandmother was, the commissioner of insurance for the state of Massachusetts, like the most, there was no black woman in the country that was had that kind of, position she had. So she was a politician, and my mom was like, hey, wanting to party, so she accepted what other people had said. And how many times are people, when they are, advising you, are they giving you the advice that they bought and that didn't, allow them to explore their lives? And I've never been like that. Yeah, I've always followed what I know. You know why I went to Paris, Sandy?
Yeah, why?
When I was 8 years old, living in Roxbury, going to the elementary school, the public elementary school, there was a woman, a third grade teacher that would write on the board every morning, Bonjour, aujourd'hui est lundi. Hello, good morning. Today is Monday. Every morning she would write for a whole year. Bonjour, aujourd'hui est mardi. Good morning. Today is Tuesday. And at the end of that year, I remember looking at that board. I can still see that board. And I said, one day I'm going to go to Paris and I'm going to speak French.
Mm.
And so, I went to, the oldest public high school in the States. It's called Boston Latin. And I took French. And my dad's like, what are you taking French for? Spanish is going to be the second language in this country. You get to speak Spanish. And I was like, Dad, I like French. And I was taking French. And I went to college. And I was like, I left Boston. And funny thing is, I had a scholarship at Boston University, 4-year scholarship. But I was like, I can't stay in Boston. There's 650,000 people in Boston. I'm going to go to New York, 10 million. I need a bigger reality, you know? And New York University had that junior year abroad in Paris. So my dad said, you can't study French and make that your major. When are you going to get a job when you study French? You got to choose something. I was like, okay, I'll choose journalism, mass broadcasting, mass communication and broadcast journalism. But I'm going to take enough French to cover the prerequisites to do that year in Paris. And had I not done that, and I often ask people that, and what is it at 8 years old that you knew you wanted to do?
Mm-hmm.
And is it time to activate that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah,
if
that's
I stayed
right.
in Boston or even maybe not in New York. Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of people feel like they could look at a life like yours and think, oh, she's so flighty. She just keeps pivoting and changing things. She can't stick with anything. And then I look at it as, if you connect the dots, they're all connected. One
Yeah.
thing leads to the next, because I've had 100 careers too. And because I follow my intuition. And so I was an artist most of my life and in many different forms. I was married to a comedian and I wrote comedy and didn't know I could do that.
I love that.
Right. So I did some really interesting, fun things because I just kept going with what's here. And I ended up directing when we were shooting a children's television show for Nickelodeon. I realized that the director didn't know how to direct him. And so I would get on the floor with the director and tell him how to put the camera, where to do. And I didn't have a background in this. I was managing the art, and so then just it gave me some tastes of parts of me that I now bring into my career today.
Exactly.
I was never a writer before. I taught art to high school kids this year. I went back to teach because there was something in me that wanted to connect with people in person. And then COVID came, but we did in-person teaching. But I said, I'm going to take this job. I told the principal, if I can also be their coach. I said, I'm not just going to take this job and teach art, because this is a place where kids open up and it's high school and they have stuff going on. And I want to be their go-to person that they trust. And so bringing that layer and that layer and that layer and it could last a year. Like, I'm not going to go back. It was enough this year. It gave me a lot of wonderful feelings of being able to contribute, and they contributed to my life as well.
Absolutely. And everything, actually. I remember with my high school, it's exam high school, and the headmaster there asked me. I was already living in Rome. And we're alumni there, and he asked me, could you come in and talk to this student? Her mom wants her to stay in Boston, and I really get that she needs a bigger reality. Could you come and talk to her mom? And I did, and she went to NYU, and now she's an actress and living a completely different life. He asked me to come in. I remember when I was still just moving, and he said, could you talk to the graduating students? And I'm like, what the heck am I going to tell them? I've been doing so many different careers. When I moved to Italy, I met this American guy. He said, oh, could you produce my film? And I was like, produce a film? I've never produced a film. Yeah, but you've done management stuff. You know how to do it. I can help you. I need to produce a film. Okay, 6 years I had a production company, a film production company, then went into, distribution and festivals and organizing the commercial aspect of selling television products. But, when I went to the school, I said, you know what? Had I gone for journalism, which was the path that I was supposed to take, I probably would have never become a film producer. You know what I mean? I probably wouldn't have my own company. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur with my own coaching business and workshops and writing that, I have a staff. Some of them have been with me for 6 years, and it's like, if I had not chosen the things that I've chosen, I probably would still be, you know, maybe living in New York, maybe even in Boston. Yeah. And maybe not, I'm in my 23rd year of marriage.
Wow.
And yeah, isn't that amazing? And it feels like we're like 20, we just celebrated our 22nd anniversary, the first of the month,
Wow.
yeah. And it's like, wow.
That's
Does it
big.
feel like 23 years? No, because I mean, maybe we're Aquarians too, because they're always, but yeah, and my first marriage was with somebody 14 years older, but this is a younger guy. He's 15 days younger than I am, so
A baby.
I'm an older woman.
You little cougar. But I'm noticing there are some themes, and just wanted to kind of call them out. So throughout everything you shared, I'm seeing a sense of adventure, there's a sense of like freedom that I'm getting. Like there's an expansiveness and adventure, and tapping into intuition, and there's always a creative element. There's an element of emotional risk, of saying why not, and not feeling boxed in. I keep getting this feeling of like expansiveness, not don't box me in.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first moved here, I didn't know the reflexive verbs, right? So we say, "Oh, you can't do that" in English, but they say that can't do itself here.
Ah,
Non si fa, right? And I was like, okay, I know fare means to do, but what does non si fa mean? So I never got that they were saying this is not done. Well, people don't do that here. So I told you, film festivals. I did it in a disco, in the cave in a disco. The mayor of Rome came when he was getting reelected to my festival.
well,
So how many things have we been told in our lives that are not done? It's never been done and you can't do it.
mhm.
And we buy that as the truth, and we don't. I mean, how many people said that to Steve Jobs? How many people said that, to the people who have made discoveries in this world?
Yeah.
So really, following your knowing, and this is what I invite people to, and you have said this a couple of times, step in. And that's this journey called life that I love to accompany people on, because people really sometimes just have a couple of areas of their life that they're willing to step into, you know? And what I like to invite people to do on this 3 steps program, it's a year-long program. People can join for 3 months, 6 months, but every month it's a different topic. Step into your life and look at this. Look at your body, look at money and finance, look at relationship, look at family, look at social life, different topics. Step in and step up and recognize your talents and abilities that you may not have acknowledged yet, and step out and share those with the world, and see the world from a different perspective. So that would I be able to do that if I hadn't done that myself? I've been to China, I've been to Kuwait, I've been to Dubai, I've been to Egypt, I've been to Brazil, I've been to all over the world more than once, and I love it. I love it. And if we feel that we don't belong in a place, then we're not acknowledging that we're home here. Yeah. And so people
Yeah.
don't often think that they would choose or do something. And I like to just allow them to invite them to see things from a different perspective. Do you know that song by Dee Dee Bridgewater? Permit me to introduce you to yourself. Have you ever heard?
No.
Permit me to introduce you to yourself. I believe you two have never really met. If you take a little time to get acquainted, you can settle all your differences, I bet. It's a great song.
I love it.
Permit me to introduce you to yourself. And that's what, yeah, because once you are connected with you, then the world is your gem and jewel. Yeah.
And you're always at home.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful way to look at the world. And I have spoken to people who say, I just need the next thing. I need to move to this place, or I don't feel connected here, and or that these are my people. And it's like, oh, how are you trying to connect to these people? Like, what are you doing to make this your home? I think back at like my first apartment in Manhattan was so disgusting. It was on 71st and Broadway, and I lived in this like tiny little room, and it was like a railroad type of apartment. And our stove there was something wrong with like the broiler where things would fall out of the back. And I once had company, and I was making chicken in the broiler, and it kept falling out the back, and I didn't realize it. And like a week later, my whole apartment smelled terrible. But I loved the apartment because it was my freedom. It was my way to connect with Manhattan and to start a new life. And so it didn't matter where I lived. I made it a home. I always made every place my home, and never really thought about it because I was so disconnected from myself in many other ways. But that's something that I always loved to travel and to just really make it personal, make it my home.
Yeah. And the when you're present with you, you begin seeing things in a from a different perspective. And there are no mistakes. There's no, you can't lose.
Yeah,
You win or you learn something.
absolutely.
If you're willing to receive that, then the next time that shows up in your life, you'll be like, oh, wait a minute. What would I like to choose this time?
Hmm.
What is
Exactly.
it that's going to work for me this time? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
so empowering to know that we're always a choice.
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
I'm a love the word choice. Yeah, I'm writing a book called Choice Points in Dating, and because I realize that so many people will say, I don't have a choice. I was brought up this way. This is the way I was raised. Oh, my parents were crazy, so I'm crazy. Or, it's the town I live in. I don't have the right education. I don't have 6,000 degrees. I'm too fat. I'm too old. I'm too ugly. It's just, I don't have a choice. It's just what happens. Older men like younger women. I mean, we could just go on and on. And we're always a choice. You can choose how you show up. You can choose how you message somebody, how you are assertive instead of shut down. There's just lots and lots of choices.
Every choice we make creates something,
Hmm.
creates something in our lives. And sometimes people make these decisions, and the decisions are something that you're not willing to give up as easily as the choices. And so, I said, well, I'm on my second marriage, but who knows? Might have a third one.
Hmm.
And he always laughs at that. But it's like, what are you willing to choose it? Is it an obligation? Is it a decision, or is it choice? And if you're choosing your life, your job, your relationship every day,
Yeah.
choose it again. And if you're willing to say, no, I think I'll leave it all, right? I do that with people when they invite me and they host me in different places in different countries for workshops. And the day before I leave, you say, you sure we should still do it? Should we just like cancel it all? What? But when you are willing, like you said, to choose, right? And what can show up if you're willing to choose a no?
Hmm.
You know, what can show up? What you open up the space for are things that maybe you hadn't even considered at that time.
Yeah.
So, really, choice is a great creation. And, you know, it's not just about you, it's about what you can offer, right? By being present. And the greatest gift that you can be to people is to receive what they offer.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's hard to receive. So many people struggle with that.
Yeah. Especially coaches. They're so busy, we're so busy helping other people. Are you willing to receive and acknowledge? Yeah.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
gift. Even if it's just a pen or a
Yeah.
smile, and you receiving it will be the greatest gift you can be to them.
Yeah. Very true. It's such
Yeah.
a gift to receive.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your book. Since I don't know, we probably have talked about it at some point, but yeah, talk about Dancing with Riches. Tell us what's. Oh,
Do you like it?
it's beautiful.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, Dancing with Riches. It's about being in step with the energy of change. But it's a how-to book, basically. And this publisher in France had asked me, "Can you write?" They had published a lot of books about, self-help, empowerment, and stuff like that. And they said, "Can you write a how-to book, like how to use it?" And I said, well, I've been, working with questions, the tools of access consciousness for almost 20 years now. And so I can definitely, this book that I'm writing, I can definitely show you how to utilize questions to give you more awareness and empower you to know what you know. Because a lot of people are looking for answers, right? But if you get an answer from somebody and it's not in line with who you are, it'll take you a while to realize that. And then you have to go back and start again, you know? So, what these tools of access consciousness are about is the tagline on it is empowering people to know that they know, so and I really love that. So I share in the book some of my many experiences, as you see, on different topics on relating to yourself, from in various areas of my life, and how if people are interested in relating to themselves and recognizes the riches of themselves, they can use questions, and I give a series of questions that they can use from different angles, and the body. A lot of people, I had the most sexy body ever. I mean, my body's still sexy, right? But the value, right, of a woman's body is just delightful. It's just delightful. And so, how you can really appreciate your body, and using the tools and relationships with others. I've had lots of relationships, and I'm really good coaching people with if they're interested in having a relationship. And so, really, how to use the tools to see what is the relationship that's going to create more for you, and also with money. Ah, some really good examples with the money. I'm very, very happy with my various ways of generating income and helping other people generate income. So, some tools on how you can change your point of view, because if something is not showing up in your life the way you'd like it, you're probably functioning from a point of view, a judgment, right? A decision, a perspective that is not the one that will contribute to you. So, how do you change that point of view? How do you look at it from a different perspective? That's what I share with people, and how you can increase the abundance in your life, the riches in your life, right? The exuberance in your life, by using these questions and accessing your knowing. So, and also with business, and what a lot of people want to change careers, or maybe they're thinking about it. Doesn't mean you have to. Want to change relationships. Doesn't mean you have to. But you got to choose not to,
Mm-hmm.
And this thing about choice, Sandy, that you were saying, a lot of times people don't choose. And that's a choice.
Yeah.
Choose not to choose. And that allows us to have a really good reason to be pessimistic, and to not, you know what I mean? And to be cranky, and to be judgmental, and to be in those relationships when sometimes people, they're talking about one another behind their backs, they're complaining, you know, um, I always thought I never want to do that. I never want to be there talking, oh, I can't stand him. It doesn't work for me, or she doesn't work for me. Ah, right. So yeah, choose
Yeah.
what works for you, because that actually deteriorates you inside. That's like, the chicken that fell behind your stove.
Rotting from the
That's
inside.
exactly it. That's exactly what it does.
Ew,
So yeah,
stinky.
yeah. So how do you step into your life, step up and recognize the choices that work for you, and step out and choose them, and choose them, and choose them, and choose again, and choose again, and choose again. So the last chapter, the chapter about self and body, relationships, money, and business, and the last chapter, which is just a few words, is: do you want to live life with one purpose, or do you simply want to live life purposefully? And so it's a different
Mm,
approach. Yeah.
totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, one purpose doesn't allow for much leeway and for other magical things showing up.
Exactly. And the universe is coming, God, Allah, Buddha, Messiah, all bringing stuff, and they're like, what do we have to do?
Right.
But
Nothing's
you're not
happening.
looking up because you're too busy looking down, because you're just looking at this one road that you've prepared. So
Hmm.
are you willing actually to look up, step up, and step out and see the world that is waiting for you?
Well,
Yeah. And recognize why you're here, and how
yeah,
can you enjoy being here fully?
yeah.
Because we can all go work at Starbucks like they told you to at the end.
Right.
But take a risk, and it may not be about what you will lose. In Italian, it is an expression that is when you're when you leave a path, you know what the path you're leaving, but you don't know the path you'll find. You know,
Yeah.
and what if that is actually exciting?
Yeah. And that's so scary for a lot of people because they don't know and they can't control it.
Yeah. Control. I know that. I'm the queen of, I was the queen of control. I gave up that crown and I got the the queen of beyond definition. And
I talked to
we're
so
women
many people.
too. We're women too. So what are the about how can we really utilize that? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a woman. I just changed my mind. Sorry. How can we use it to our advantage?
Sorry, not sorry.
All right. Sorry, fingers crossed. Exactly. Sorry. Is that sorry that about me? Sorry it doesn't work for you.
Sorry, you have a problem with me.
Exactly. You don't have to repeat those last words, but you can make them sorry doesn't work for you. Bye-bye.
Just catch you never. Okay, so let's get to the lightning round. This conversation definitely could go on for hours and hours, but we do have a limit on this podcast, and you're getting late over there. So let's go to the lightning round. Are you ready?
Mm, that's the lightning round. I'm excited.
Good. Okay, fill in the blank. I used to think I wasn't blank enough.
I used to think I wasn't focused enough.
Hmm. What was the number one thing holding you back from becoming a woman of value?
Wanting to support the structure of my life.
Hmm. What do you mean by that?
Married, 2.5 kids, living in the States, and going on vacation with the friends, and going to Martha's Vineyard, and being there and following that. Yeah. And the value in paving a new path.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What is the best advice you can give to a woman who wants to become more empowered?
Connect with you. Look in the mirror in the morning, in your eyes, and repeat until you feel some movement in your body. Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Until you feel some movement inside. Believe me, it will occur.
Interesting. What advice would you give to your younger self?
It's going to be okay. Do not give in. Do not give up. Do not ever quit.
That's certainly how you're living your life right now. What is something that people get wrong about you?
What do they get wrong about me? That I'm not accessible,
Mhm.
that they can't access me directly, that they have to call my secretary or something like that. That's just never, I just can't even imagine that. I remember I was at a class in Paris and people were like, well, I know you're too busy and you're really busy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're talking to me now.
Mm.
You know? So yeah.
So approachable or accessible.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. All right. Well, final question, Kass. How would you like to be remembered?
I love that question. As a beacon of light that shines and illuminates the light in other people.
I mean, that says it all. Well, you certainly have lit up my life for this time that we've spent together. I'm totally energized. I really love the conversation. Tell our audience, Kass, how people can find you.
Well, I'm going to be at Sandy's place from now on, so I'm going to take a picture of us. But when I'm not at Sandy's place, you can find me at online. You can find me at the number 3steps.us, right? That US, and my dancingwithriches.us. Yeah, you can find me there, and of course, kassthomas.com. That's easy.
So
But I love dancingwithriches.us and the 3steps.us or the 7steps.us. I love all those.
all the us's.
There you go. They're all accessible through kassthomas.com too. Yeah. And I'm the Art of Being Kass on Facebook and Instagram and yeah, YouTube and stuff.
The
And
Art of Being Kass?
the Art of Being Kass.
Okay. That sounds like John Malkovich. Being John Malkovich, being Kass.
Right. The nine and a half floor, right?
I love that.
Husband, people say that he looks like a combination of John Malkovich and Tom Hanks across.
Interesting.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? So it's interesting that you say that. You're so telepathic, honey. And that would start, I know that would start 100 conversations. What is that behind you?
Oh, my book?
Is it?
This is my book.
Oh, Becoming a Woman of Value. That is so gorgeous.
Thank you. How to thrive in life and love.
Awesome.
It sounds like it's structured very similarly to your book because it's short. It's filled with exercises. Each chapter is short and gives you one tip. And I share stories, and some of my podcast interviews are in there and client stories. And so I love the exercises. Like, you just don't tell somebody, change this, but how?
Oh, absolutely not. If this is what's up for you, then here's some things you can ask. And this is how you get the response from the question you've asked. I mean, it's really like a pragmatic way of creating the shift and the change in your life.
I love it.
And I'm gonna, people who are getting the Dancing with Riches book, I hope people do get it. And I'm inviting them, if they're doing a review of it on Amazon, to this series called Access Your Highness, Recognizing the Queen in You.
Ooh.
So you definitely, Miss Queen, will be invited to that.
Okay.
And I'll get you a book.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes, and go out, get the book, rate and review it, and get into the sphere of the art of being Kass. It's a good place to be. So thank you again, Kass. This has just been like a pleasure and a treasure.
For me as well, and a gem. That's you. Thank you, Sandy, so much.
Thank you.
If you would like to step more fully into your value, grab a free copy of The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Woman of Value on my website, thewomanofvalue.com. Just click the link at the top of the homepage. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to click the subscribe button in your listening app. And if there's something in this episode that inspired you, please share it with others, because the more we share these inspirational stories, the more women of value we will have in this world. I'll see you next time.